Darryl Frankfort, welcome to the Everyday Millionaire podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so you and your buddy, pal, partner, TJ, YouTube sensation. TK, sorry, my bad. YouTube sensations.
Sensations.
Sensations. You guys are
self-proclaimed.
You guys are hilarious. Good show, good insights. Canadian real estate. No, give me the right name again.
Yeah, the Canadian Real Estate Show.
Canadian Real
We're
Estate
very
Show.
creative. We put a lot of effort into that name.
You do. I see that.
You guys started. We were brilliant before that. Like before that was even better. We were the Toronto Real Estate Show.
Yeah.
That one took time.
I've been on your show. Which one was I on?
Toronto or Canadian? You may have been on both. I think you've been on a couple times. Weren't you on a live show too?
Oh, I did. I was on twice. I was on as a group gig in New Year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We've had some fun.
Hey, well, listen, aside from a YouTube sensation, Darryl, when somebody says, Darryl, what do you do for a living? What's your answer?
I am a real estate developer.
And can you expand on that a little bit? What kind of real estate you develop? Where are you located? I mean, it sounds like Toronto, and I know it is, but tell me a little bit about, as a developer, where are you hanging your shingle and where are you doing some work?
So I'm a developer in Toronto. I've done work all over the place. The last few years, I've actually focused on Scarborough. I love Scarborough. Did a couple of really good deals out there. I am currently closer to downtown now. I have a deal I'm working on in Parkdale. What I try to do generally is I call myself the Assembly King now on Twitter, because I like to put multiple properties together for development projects. That's kind of my forte. So I'll try and put together multiple properties and put in a development application for a new building, and then sell that to somebody else that is much better at doing these things than I am.
So then really you're kind of in the middle. So you're bringing these things together, you're assembling the deal, and, maybe perhaps shifting some zoning, I'm assuming. I'm not, you can put in
generally I get the ball rolling on the zoning, and I give somebody like a nice start or something like a nice floor to kind of take over. And I mean, I've been around the block a few times, so I know a thing or two. Some people will, just try and maximize the GFA or the square footage on a site. But I've learned through experience that you really want to pass on a saleable site that somebody may not have to kind of take back to the drawing board. So we really try and design good buildings so that somebody sees value and takes it over, because we never intend to do construction. I used to do construction.
Well, I think it would serve us because because I've followed you and, kind of paid attention to what you've got going on. I think it would serve listeners to hear a little bit of your backstory, because here's where you are today as a developer or the Assembly King or whatever handle that you take on, but that's not where you were. And part of your story is the journey to get to where you are came with some big lessons in the real estate world, big lessons, expensive lessons learned.
Yeah.
And why don't we go back to first that time of where you first got into real estate? Because I think your story is a good story for many, lots of lessons in there that perhaps we could share.
Lots of lessons that I'm very happy to revisit regularly. But they have served me. And they have served me recently, so I'll try and tie it all together at some point if I don't fly off on too many tangents. But I started out in a lumber yard with my family, and I kind of, got the bug for real estate through osmosis by just kind of selling lumber and framing houses for other developers. And to be honest with you, like when I worked in the lumber yard, I saw other developers come in, and they had really nice cars and they had really nice shoes. And I spoke to them and I had dinner with them, and like they were just normal guys. And I figured, if these guys can do it, so can I. But I took a pit stop. I went into the furniture business with my wife's family for a little bit. And after spending a few years there, I decided that I was going to be a speculative builder, and I was going to buy a bungalow in Toronto, knock it down, and build a brand new house. And I don't know why I came up with that, and I don't know why I thought I could do it, but I did. And I learned a lot of lessons on that house because I had no idea how to do anything, like anything.
Well, I mean, that sounds at the time. I mean, we'd look at it today and go, it was a kind of a classic fix and flip intention.
Well, this
Uh,
was actually like getting permits, knocking down a house, building a
oh,
whole new house. Like this was a
got it.
full new build.
Okay, so
And
that's development.
but this was
So
crazy because I didn't know anything. Like I had no clue. And I bought this house in a bidding war, sight unseen. I gave the agent like a blank check, and I went, this is so stupid. I was 30, and I guess I was going a little crazy. My wife sent me to San Francisco to go see Donald Trump and Robert Kiyosaki, and like it was the first time Trump spoke. It was in San Francisco. It was a crazy event. It was Tony Robbins and Susie Orman, like this crazy cast of people for 3 days in San Francisco. Anyways, so I decided I was going to be a big developer, and I quit my job working for the family business in the furniture, and I bought this lot. Like I put an offer. I went to San
okay.
Francisco, gave the guy a blank check, and he's like, "You got it." And I'm like, "I did. What did I pay?" Right? And then I didn't know what to do now. So I had this deposit on a house. I had no idea what to do next. And I'm like, I, I guess I need to find some money or something because I don't know what to do. And I asked this one guy, what do I do? Like, who do I call? And just somehow through chance, I just went to everybody would lead me to, you know what? I'm not interested. Maybe try this guy or maybe try this guy. And then one day I was at a bar mitzvah, and this guy I've known my whole life pulls me aside. He said, "I heard you're a big builder now. How's it going?" And I was like, "It is like not going well. I have no idea what I'm doing. I need money like badly, and I'm running out of time." And so um, he introduced me to one of his friends, and they took me kind of under their wing, thank God. And they said, like, go make a budget and come back, and we'll see if we can finance this for you. And I was like, oh, great. And then I started to make a budget. And I'm like, I have no idea how to make a budget. Like, I thought I knew how to make a house. I had no idea, like, zero clue. So, anyways, I try and make this budget, and I put together, like, it was probably pathetic. I can't even imagine what it looked like. But I went into this guy's office and I started crying, like, literally crying. And I was like, I'm gonna lose all my deposit money, and like I just left my job and I don't know what to do. It was a mess. And he goes, "Don't worry, buddy, we're gonna take care of you." And like they helped me, but I mean they had a vested interest. They did very well on this deal, believe me. They had a sucker and they knew it. And then I did okay actually. Like I did okay. I figured it out. I built a beautiful house, beautiful house. And this is in like 2006. And so when we put it for sale, the agent, we got an offer like right away, way under asking, and he's like, and I was like I don't know what to do now. We got an offer, but it's not what we asked for. He goes, you never know when you're gonna get another offer. I suggest you take it. And he gives me a big hug, like, congratulations. And I was like, okay, like I made money. Okay, let's go. Like I didn't even know to sign back. Like this is how stupid and naive and raw. Like not even a sign back. Like oh god, like the dumb mistakes on that house. But anyways, so I made some money, and then I thought I could do two at the same time. And
Okay. That's funny.
right?
Okay, hold on. Before we go, let's
Yeah.
okay, because
Sorry.
this is fascinating.
Okay.
I'm kind of looking at the psychology of all of this, Daryl, and saying, and I would be a little bit different in terms of your own self-assessment, being maybe a little dumb, a little stupid. And I'd watch because, I look at it a couple things, because I've worked with investors for, 20 plus years. I mean, literally coached and presented education and research to thousands of investors. I know intimately many investors in terms of psychology, where they go, what they do, and they don't do. And here's what I've learned: as much as you jumped off the cliff, the proverbial cliff, you went along and you dealt with it. You happened to make some money out of that. Came some huge lessons that I'm sure that you actually apply today in that learning, even this many years later.
Right.
And I think there's a part of it where a lot of people just sit on the sidelines and they never take that next step to creating that financial future.
Sure.
Now, I get it. In hindsight, you look at it and go, "Was that ever dumb?" But ultimately, I think you have to look at what you took from it, aside from making a little bit of money. Now, when you added the component that said, "Oh, and then I thought I was pretty good, so I took on 2." Now,
Sure.
the plot thickens. Now I'm saying, "Okay, Daryl, really? Give me
And
a little bit of." Okay,
and
so
the
continue.
timing now we're in like 2008, right?
Oh, nice,
But I had
nice.
learned some valuable lessons from that, and I thought I had avoided some pitfalls. Like on that first house, when I first bought it, like it had these big, beautiful trees, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna build this beautiful deck around the tree in the backyard, and these trees are a feature. They're beautiful. And then I ended up fighting with the city, and the city made me tear down the bloody trees. And this is weird because this is in 2006, maybe, yeah, 6, 7. And like right after that, all of a sudden, the city, like all they cared about was trees and protecting trees. And it was all about the trees. So, but the next lot I bought had no trees on it at all. I was like, I'm avoiding trees no matter what. And so I bought a lot, and then we went to the cottage, me and my wife. We had our new daughter then. Um, so I had like left my job. We had a new baby. I had no money coming in, and I do this stupid house first. And like all the money I made really went to paying back my lines of credits, my credit cards, like all the money I borrowed. I basically started at zero again with a bunch of like credit, and now 2 houses, which I had to borrow all kinds of money for. But so I bought one house. I had enough money to buy that house on my own, or to at least tie it up. Then I'm at the cottage, and my agent calls me. He goes, "You won't believe it. I got great news." Okay. He goes, "3 steps down the street, there's another house for sale. I think you should buy it." And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm not there. I can't even look at it." He goes, "Don't worry. It's perfect for you." And it's like right almost beside the other one. So he's like, "You'll get economies of scale." And I'm like, "I'll get economies of scale. That sounds good. Okay, I'm in. Let's make an offer." And I call my dad, and I'm like, "Dad, I need to borrow 50 grand to make a deposit on this other house. Like, don't ask me any questions. I'll write you a check as soon as I get back." Anyway, so I like pull my mother-in-law into this, and I pull my dad into this, and I borrow all kinds of crazy money to do 2 houses now. And these are not like $500,000 houses. These are like, I thought I was going to sell them for over $2 million each one of these. Okay.
Mm,
The first one sold for 1.7 or 1.7 and a quarter, 1.650, something like that. Like these are serious houses. And this is back then. So that now is like 3.5, 4.2. Like that's what these houses are going for now. So, but anyway, so now I've got 2. I didn't even see one. I'm still at the cottage. Now I got to do this whole thing over again, but I got to find twice as much money. But the guys that I borrowed from last time, they're like, "Yeah, of course. Like it's going to cost you a couple points more, but yeah, no problem." I was like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, let's go." Meanwhile, they had tied up in the financing these 2 houses, and they wrapped my personal residence into it. Okay.
mm,
Which I was like,
yeah.
"I don't care. Like, let's just get this deal done. Let's go. I'll do whatever it takes because I'm going to make a fortune." Right. And yeah, then, you start hearing on the news as I'm driving to the job sites or I'm driving to the houses, like the US economy is not doing so good and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, geez, I should probably get out of these things like quick. I better sell. And then I'm like, the other side's going, "No, you're going to make a fortune. Like, just build those things. Go, go, go." Right. And my wife's like, "Maybe you should get out of these things. Like, I don't know. You have a bad feeling." And I didn't trust it. And I went ahead and I went into the worst possible market of all time. But like, I know maybe now, like years later, I may not be so stupid. But back then, I'm thinking, Rich people have money all the time. It doesn't matter if the market goes down. They're going to be able to buy these houses from me. But the truth is that the people with money, they know how to get that house for way less than market value, right? And they don't need to buy it. So I got raked over the coals on those two houses. I lost everything. I had to sell my house. We had to move out. It was like, I had to sell my cars. It was a mess. A mess.
Did you? But when you look at, okay, so you did you at that point, did you have to declare bankruptcy, or were you able to just kind of
Never,
kick the can
never.
down the road, sell stuff?
A lot of kicking the can down the road, a lot of
Yeah.
deals, like a lot of juggling and a lot of craziness and like a lot of doing stuff that I didn't really want to do. I mean, I never wanted to be a gun for hire or a general contractor, but like, so here I am now, 2009. I have no money. I lost my house. I'm driving a minivan now. Okay. And my wife is obviously like not so pleased. Like instead of curtains, we have like towels with naked ladies on it because there are beach towels and they're dark and they cover the light, right? Like it's really bad. We're broke. And I have no way of making money. And so this realtor that I did some business with years before when I worked at the furniture store, he goes, "Hey, I this friend of mine at my son's hockey is looking for a general contractor." And I told him about you. And I was like, told him about me. I'm not a general contractor. He's like, just go talk to them. I think you can get the job. It's like, okay. I built 3 houses, okay? And like building 3, so I go to this meeting and it's a renovation and they want to rip the roof off, gut the whole house. And while we're ripping the roof off, they had just done 2 washrooms and they wanted to keep those intact. So like difficulty level 8,000 for this project. And I'm going in there and I've never even done a renovation before. And I go in there, I got my briefcase, I've got like 4 different contracts with different prices on it cuz I don't know how the conversation's going to go. And by the end of the conversation, I pulled out like the cheapest management fee contract. And I said, here's my price. And they said, you're hired. And I was like, I should ask for more. But no, but really, I was like, I guess I'm a general contractor now. And then it just like the neighbor came over and he's like, you're doing a really good job. I like what you're doing here. Can you come take a look at this for me? And then he hired me. And then, oh, I should put up a sign. And then like next thing you know, I got 5 jobs, these crazy renovation jobs. The family that I worked in the lumberyard for, they started giving me some work and like they started referring me. And next thing I know, it's like, I need to hire somebody. Right. And I'm still in a big hole. And I'm like, I got to do this fast. I got to do this fast. So I'm trying to grow this business as fast as I can. And there's a whole list of mistakes that I made there because next thing you know, I'm a framing company. I'm a drywall company. I'm a real estate brokerage. I'm a kitchen company, like everything just to like make more off of the stuff that I could get. Right. Because I could sell. I could sell. I could sell. Right. And I could actually deliver what I sold, which if you asked me, like selling is nothing. But delivering what you promised, that's a whole other ball game, right? And I had a
Classic
knack for it.
sales, classic sales dilemma. Oh, you mean I have to deliver and execute on what I just sold you? That's
Well,
problematic.
right? But
Good
a
one.
lot of people don't have to do the delivery. They do the
Yeah,
sale and they walk away, right? So it's a
yeah,
different like and they,
totally.
you know, they might eat next week because they know they have a paycheck coming, right? So anyways, I mean, it got crazy and I got crazy and I started thinking bigger is better and it's like with anything. I mean, you can't build anything on a really crappy foundation, right? And so that's what we had. We had like extraordinary growth and no foundation, right? And
Mhm.
everybody's running ragged and we're hiring anybody that will say yes. And it looked good on the outside though. But and it listen, it made a lot of money. But who I don't know, like the guys that are general contractors that do a lot of work, that do this for a long time, my hats are off to them. They have a different mentality than me. I couldn't handle it. I'd have women crying on my shoulders and people fighting in front of me all the time and everybody going over budget. And like, I would sit in these meetings with people and say, listen, you're going to go over budget no matter what we discuss right now. right? You're going to tell me right now that you want X and you really want Y. I promise you, you want Y. You don't even know it yet, but you want Y. Right. And they're like, no, we make decisions. Like it's like you'd hear the same conversation. No, we're different. We're going to do. And these poor people, you'd watch their lives like get ruined in front of you. And like it's a horrible thing, and I couldn't handle it, is the point I'm trying to make. Like it wasn't made for me, right? Because I was like up all night thinking about like toilets and missing parts and a faucet over here and a leaky roof over there, and I'd get anxiety when it would rain. Like it was just not for me. And so I finally
I,
got an opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I want to. I want to. So this is great. So we're going to continue the story, and I want to, now for the rest of the story, I want to hear the rest of the story. But I want to go along a little bit, and touch base with, as you're going through this and as you reflect, what is there a couple of lessons that stand out? So first off, did you force the river in terms of you realize it wasn't for you, but you kept doing it anyways, and that took you a while to figure out, and you realized that you were chasing money as opposed to a model or maybe an ideology of what you wanted to deliver in terms of value. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. Was there some lessons in hindsight that you really got that caused the grief and the challenges that you faced? Where were you in that process when you think about it, when you think back? What did you learn?
Well, I learned a lot. I mean, but all I could think of was that there's got to be easier ways to make money, right? There has to be an easier way to make money. And this is crazy. And you know what? It was good because I realized that like even though I can do it doesn't mean I should do it, right? Cuz
Mm.
I can, if I set my mind to it, I can do anything. I've been in every business. I've tried everything. I've failed at lots of things. I've pulled the plugs on things that were successful. Like I've done all kinds of stuff. But like when you can't sleep and all you think about is like, how do I get out of this? Like that's a great indicator for you to get out of it. The problem with this is that the cash flow is crazy. And when you have a good brand and you do good work, people are begging you to do the work for you. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to say no to money, right? It's really hard to say no to money. And so you get kind of caught up in that. And so yes, I definitely got stuck in that for way longer than like was healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I mean, I have lots of days where I'm like, if I just did it like this, it would have been really good. Like if I just did it like me and an assistant in the car and I just took on a few jobs, like it would have been really good. But like there was something in me always. Like my mom even said, like when I was little, I would tell her that I was going to like go to work in a suit and be this successful developer, right? Like and I'd always play with Lego and I'd just always be building stuff and always organizing shit with people. Like I was just like this. And so what it turns out that I'm good at is just like putting the puzzle together, right? Just putting the
Mm-hmm.
puzzle together, whatever the puzzle is. But like real estate development makes me excited. I want to talk about it. I want to have a podcast. I want to talk to anybody about real estate all the time. And I don't know where that came from because I don't come from real estate. Like my parents lived in the same house the entire time that I was alive, right? Like I don't know from real estate. Even my wife's family doesn't really, they own some real estate, but not this development stuff. I worked in the lumber yard. I caught this bug. If I walk in New York, like I'm in heaven, I could walk for 30 days in a row without like even eating. Like I just love buildings. And so it just
Mm-hmm.
became like this. When I look at it in hindsight, like all the little things I did along the way made me capable of doing what I do now. And I was even talking to my son the other day. He's like, Dad, I want to do what you do. And I said, cool, like go for it. But it might look like it's easy, but it took 30 years to make it look easy, right? Because now I get it, right? I had to screw up and like I dug a bigger hole trying to dig out of the hole, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I screwed up so many times that like now I'm a friggin' genius.
Of course, yes.
right?
It was a yeah, sort of, I totally get it. I love
I
the
made it
but
into
there's some
myself.
there's some, interesting stuff around all this, Daryl, which is, the character that gets developed and evolves in continually facing and overcoming adversities, even if they're self-imposed. And I mean, a lot of adversities in business aren't self-imposed. They're just what show up because, and you happen to be at the effect of what's going on in the world and you have to figure shit out. But in your case, and although you had that as well, because everybody does, a lot of the adversity that you faced was self-imposed because you took on more than you could take on. You stepped into a world that you weren't familiar with. You didn't have some of the talents that you thought you had and or needed to do what you said you were going to do. So but
It
the
came
thing
down
is
to
around
one
all of
thing,
it is
though.
that you overcame.
One,
Sorry, go ahead.
it ended up coming down to one thing with all that you're saying, because if the timing was right, none of that mattered, right?
Of
Idiots
course,
can make money in an up market, right? Anybody could buy
we know that.
something, do something on it, and sell it for more in an up market, right? We see that everywhere,
Hmm.
right? So, I mean, I was no genius, that's for sure, but like these lessons from getting pummeled and keep still going. Anyway, sorry, I cut you off there. What were you saying?
Well, no, that's all good. That's an important part of all of this. When we look at
Timing.
in the context of the podcast, is that you get seemingly ordinary achieving extraordinary. You probably look at it and go, "Well, I haven't achieved that much extraordinary," but really, you have. You've done a lot of things just in getting to where you
Oh,
are
I have.
today,
Yep.
and having handled all that you've handled. I'm interested in knowing, though. You talked a little bit about your mom and as a kid what you were doing. Did you really come out of the chute being entrepreneurial, or were your
Oh,
parents
yeah.
entrepreneurial in some way? Like, where did
Yeah.
that entrepreneurial spirit come from, do you think? Or was it literally just you have no idea, it's just how it was?
I think my spirit came from, um, like, I wanted a lot of things growing up, and my
Mhm,
parents were not in a position to give me everything that I wanted, right?
mhm,
And so what I would hear is, like, if you want it, go and get a job and go work for it. So I did, because that's
mhm,
me. Like, if you challenge me, forget about it. That's it, right? So I was like 13, and I went and I got a job. I told them I was 16. I ended up like the assistant manager at the Colonel's at the local mall here, right? And I
mhm,
worked my butt off because I wanted a new monitor and a graphics card for my computer, and they wouldn't get it for me. So I went and I worked for it, and I was like, oh, well, this isn't so bad. And I just kept working, and then I just it just turned into stuff. Next thing I know, I'm at this baseball camp working, and that summer the owners decide to close it down. So my friend says, "Hey, we were thinking a few of us that we are going to start it up again under a different name. Like, do you want to do it?" I said, "Sure. We can use it for our project." We were in first year university, and I had a full time job working at like some rental car place, and these guys wanted to start a baseball camp with me. So I was like, "Okay, sure, why not?" And we started a baseball camp. It was crazy, like absolutely
so
crazy.
so there's just a part of you that says, I have that entrepreneurial spirit. There's a part of you that wants to lead the way and be part of something bigger. And that's kind of, I look at entrepreneur and business owners and individuals like you or I, that I ask the question often, is it nature or is it nurture? And actually, what I've discovered in now interviewing hundreds of, you know, pretty successful individuals on the podcast and just knowing the people I know through the real estate investment network is that it's just both, and it really is.
Yeah, who
Sometimes it is
knows?
nature and sometimes it is nurture. And there is no real answer to it, but it's also interesting to, have these kinds of conversations and listen to the character traits that show up in people. Like, there's a part of you that also had a commitment to at least keeping your word, delivering, or at least trying to deliver on what you said you were going to deliver on. So there's not a part of you that was saying, I'm going to take advantage of somebody to make money and, screw it. You're actually saying to people, listen, you're committing to this, but it's not going to be that. And you need to know about that. Whereas many contractors would go, okay, I'll just pick up the extra money at the end of the
Oh
job
yeah.
when you've upgraded everything that you said you wouldn't upgrade. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying with that? There was
Yeah,
a part of good.
and that's the thing is I just I guess some people don't take that opportunity when they recognize that they're stuck in something to change it. I mean, if you if you talk to anybody that knew me intimately, they all thought I was crazy. I mean, the kind of money that I was making. I mean, imagine I had 20 something jobs. Like I had a whole it was crazy. The amount of money that thing was spinning was insane. And I just like shut it down and walked away. I didn't try and sell it or anything. I just wanted to get rid of it, like, and just move on. That's abnormal. That's abnormal, I think. I mean, a few people I'm sure do that, but like what a hard thing to do. And like especially right after I had just, lost everything and finally kind of got life back to like seemingly normal and it's like, "Hey honey, I know things are good again, but I'm not so into this. I'm going to try something new."
Well, I can say that having followed you for 2 or 3 years and having had conversations with you previously, you're special, Daryl. That's why you're on the
Hey,
show.
special.
So
Thank you.
let's not lose sight of that. But something I did interrupt you when you talked about you shut it all down, and then that's where you ended up where you are today, doing what you're doing today. How did that what was the transition there, Daryl?
God. So, um, someone that I was very close to, uh, years previous had offered for me to come and work and learn from him in development. And I was like, I can't. Like, I have a wife and kids. I need money. Like, I can't just come and work for free and learn something new, as much as I would love to. Um, so, fast forward to a few years later, and he said, "How much money do you need every month to come and help me out, and I'll teach you?" And so we kind of came up with a deal where he was going to teach me and pay me what I needed to pay all my bills every month. And on the back end of that, when he decided to retire, I would keep paying him out for years and years and years so that he can retire nicely off into the sunset and everybody could be happy. And I was very happy with that. Um, but I closed my business. I went to go work with this gentleman, and he taught me some stuff about development, and we did some deals that I worked very, 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 very hard on, and they were actually like some record-breaking deals. Like these are not your ordinary deals, believe me. And he decided that all of a sudden our contract like wasn't something that he wanted to adhere to anymore when it was time to pay my bonus, right? Um, basically, it was if you think I'm going to give you more money, then you can leave right now. And I said, okay. And I like grabbed my desktop and I ran out the door. I was like, I'm out of here. Fuck this. And I left. And I just started my own thing. And I just started doing it on my own. And I was like, um, I'm kind of lonely. Like, and so I went back, I called a couple guys I knew, and I got into this really great group and I started learning from these like unbelievable land development guys, unbelievable condo sales team. Like I was in with some serious, like really experienced, knowledgeable heavyweights, and I was just like soaking it all up like a sponge. I knew it wasn't going to work out for very long because I was like way younger and nobody wanted to listen to me. And I had some great stuff going on. And so I soaked up whatever I could. And when I couldn't take it anymore and we had kind of unwound the deals we were working on and I got my money, I went out and started on my own again. And I ended up like with a ton of knowledge. And like God, like it's hard to sit there and not make money and learn stuff and not freak out every night,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's really hard. But I mean, that's how you really learn. Like that's how you really learn. You get close to that flame as close as you can and you do whatever you can. But it's I've taken some stupid risks for my family. Like they're really dumb. Like if you look at them, they're dumb and they worked out okay, thank God, right? But like what kind of stress? Like I could have had a very nice easy life and collected a paycheck and could I had great jobs. Like I worked in a great business for family. I did very well twice. I left that twice that situation. I just needed to be able to feel free. But then, like everybody else that's an entrepreneur, like you think you're the boss, huh? Right? You think you're the boss. Holy shit, I never had so many bosses in my life. I don't even have any employees or clients or anything, and everybody's my boss.
Yeah, there's been times in my business where I'm going, okay, who's working for who here? I think I'm just working for the team. I'm, nobody's working for me. That's funny.
Um,
So it's true though. So when you look at where you are today, I mean, do you think you've come to that place where there's a degree of satisfaction, if you will, in terms of the work that you're doing, the money you're earning, the stress levels that you can manage, and are you kind of in a place now where you see future growth, or kind of what drives you? Are you still being driven to be bigger, better? uh, we always want to make more money, but ultimately when you look at it, are you just really now balancing life stress levels with the job that you're doing in terms of satisfaction and being able to deliver? How does that look for you today?
I right now life is extraordinarily comfortable and a lot of fun. And I work from home. I have no employees. I have multiple businesses that are like international. I work all kinds of weird hours in all kinds of weird countries. And I'm really not that stressed out at all. And I love it. I really love it because I'm loving everything that I'm doing. Right. And they
Mm-hmm.
all kind of like intertwine with each other. And they're, I don't know, I get to be really creative. I'm really lucky. And if I don't feel like working, I mean, maybe I have something I need to do that day, but like I can do whatever I really want right now, which is beautiful. I mean, I'm not a sleeper. I've never been a sleeper. I have lots of time. I'm fortunate because you know what? You can't make more time. You can only sleep less, right? So if you want to get ahead and you just don't happen to sleep, I mean, I guess you could, there's things other people do, but I mean, but my work is like, sometimes my work is watching YouTube, right? Because I'm like fully invested in this YouTube, and I can't even begin to tell you the benefits that I have reaped from this stupid show of mine. Okay, that just started out as me and a buddy talking because we were talking, right? And we were like,
Mm-hmm.
we should record this. Like, this is, I don't know if this is good, but maybe it will be good. Let's just, and then we did one. And then we were like, let's just do this every Sunday forever and see what happens. No matter what, we have to do it on Sunday. Like we have to put something out on Sunday. And we
Mm-hmm.
have like for 3 years. Right. But
Yep.
for some, what looks like wasting time, if you give it enough time, it was well worth it. Well worth it. Like if I told you that just, I mean, through social media, I mean, I met you, right? I've
Mm-hmm.
met guys like Daniel Foch. I just had a lovely lunch meeting with guys I met on Twitter. They're pre-construction and like a real estate brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
The planner I'm using on my current project, I met on Twitter. The equity I just raised or signed an MOU on for the project I'm working on came from a contact through Twitter. That's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of money, man. A lot of money. And not
Yeah.
because I like put this intention out to make money and go on YouTube. It was just like, let's do this thing and see what happens. So like I get to be excited every day because I feel like I'm always doing something else. So I love the real estate, but like I've got all these other things. Like I got all kinds of crazy stuff going on. All exciting stuff.
Let me ask you this around real estate. So, and then I want to go back to your YouTube with TK. I got a couple comments around it. But when you look at real estate, I hear this statement all the time from investors. I love real estate. I go, okay, hold on just a minute. There's nothing to love about real estate in that context. Tell me what you love about real estate. And when you start
Mm,
to really think about it, I love the deal. I love the sale. I love the transition from a old ugly property to a new one. That's it's when you get into the kind of part of what you love about real estate. It's rarely the asset. It's about all the things that are wrapped around and gaining or growing or selling or pitching the deal or negotiating the deal. So when you say I love real estate, is it all of that? Is it none of that? What is it for you? I don't want to put, I don't want to say this is what it is, but what is it for you?
So I mean, I love to hunt. So the cold
Mhm.
calling and the
Yeah.
like so like I'll come up with a target. I'll make a map of the whole area and I'll find my targets and I'll figure out what I can do on them. I'll make my valuations and then I'll go and I'll call the people and I'll hound the people and I'll like it's just this negotiation, this chase. I love it. And I love just because I'm not there trying to screw them. I know what it's worth to me. So when I figure out what it's worth to them, if those things are in line, like, let's help each other. Let's do this. I can give you
Mhm.
what you want. What you want is outrageous, but how the way I see it is outrageous, right? But that's
Yeah.
the truth. The
Hmm.
secret is not like you have to be special. You have to figure out a way to pay these people some stupid amount of money for their house. That's the truth.
Hmm.
Because how do you get six people to sell when none of them or one of them only wanted to sell? Right? There's only
Hmm.
one way. Pay them a lot, pay them enough until they all say yes. Right?
Hmm.
Now, along the way, other things get really important, right? So it's not obviously just pay them a lot, but that's a gigantic part of it. If you can't figure out how to pay them more than it's worth, I mean, I don't think anybody's stealing stuff anymore. Maybe
No.
in Saskatchewan, I have no idea, but in Toronto, like you're not stealing a deal from somebody. Because every developer's looking at everything all the time. Like it's one of the craziest real estate markets in the world, right? This is fierce. This is even people from New York think development in Toronto is crazy, right? But it's
Mhm.
like it's the hunt, and then after the hunt, it's like keeping it together because it's like you have it all together and then all kinds of things come up that screw up this one or this somebody dies, god forbid, but that happens, and like this person changed their mind or now you need more time, and everybody wants to give you time except for one person. They're like fed up with the whole thing now. You don't know what's going to happen. So it's like constantly being a goalie and figuring out like how am I going to deal with this, right? Like but
Okay.
it's constant.
Don't
And
be a
then
Leaf
it's
goalie.
don't be a Leafs goalie.
Don't be a Leafs goalie. That's
Don't
all I
be
got to say.
anything Leafs. Ugh. Anyways, I can't even watch them anymore.
So
And then
you
it's
like
like the
that part of the game.
creativity. No, but I
Mhm.
like picturing the building that I'm gonna put there or somebody's gonna put there. Like I like this whole thing because when I see the like I can go there and see the building. Like I love it, and it lets me you be like a kid and have an imagination and like make something in here and then try and produce it out there, right? There's
Mhm.
not too many other things I think you can do like that. Like,
Mhm.
and then add on to it that like you can make a lot of friggin' money. Like,
We can't forget the money.
but
Don't
I
forget the
mean,
money.
you can also lose a lot of friggin' money. We've seen
Here's a,
that.
here's a quote. My uncle used to use the phrase, "Buddy, I don't need the work. I need the money." That
I
was
need the
always
buddy,
his phrase. I don't need the work. I need the money. So,
right?
it's interesting that creativity part of it because you know, I'm not saying that you do, but many like yourself take your creativity for granted as if everybody's got that kind of creativity. And I can tell you is that my creativity is very limited to some specific things. I don't have that big grand vision creativity that would be in building design, for example. So it's interesting what goes on in our minds and what you have I would call it a gift, and you've obviously got some kind of a gift because you've earned the track record and have the success that you've had because of what you do. So I just find that when you think about what you love about real estate, we're starting to hear in that language what it is you love about real estate, and that is getting the hunt, doing the negotiation, but the creativity that comes with it is that's really what it's about for you. And perhaps that would live outside of real estate, although you're very comfortable and familiar with real estate and buildings and all the kind of architecture that comes with it, I'm sure. So that I find that kind of not kind of, I find it very interesting when I talk to somebody like you and see that vision. It's very good. So I want to talk about your YouTube,
Okay.
TK. How did you guys meet? Because I've watched your show. I enjoy your show. You guys are hilarious. But I think what I like about the show is that
Yeah.
in it, you guys are riffing off stuff. You're talking about your week and what went on, and you're kind of talking about real issues. So I find it often quite interesting, the insights that you get, because you're bumping up against all the same stuff that people are bumping up against. They're paying attention, whether there be investors or just home buyers that want to get into real estate or figure real estate out. I mean, you guys are actually having real time conversations. TK sharing as a realtor what he's seeing in the market. So it's just really good value in that. And with some entertainment value. I think it's pretty good. So I just wanted to shout out anybody who's listening. You gotta tune into that show. It's fun.
We made a point to want to add some kind of entertainment to a real estate show, which I don't know why we would do that, but I think if like we're not trying to sell anything. Well, we
Mm-hmm.
weren't, at least at the beginning. But like the idea is
Now you're
not to
selling
sell
what? What are you
anything.
selling? Advertising? No, I
Well,
don't
I
know.
mean,
What
we
are you
we,
doing?
we dabbled in some advertising for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
which but we did dabble in some advertising with some partners, and that worked out okay. But
Mm-hmm.
the originally the intent was not to do that, but we ended up with an arrangement that was too hard to pass up,
Mm-hmm.
and we tried it, and what we learned a lot because if people only knew the power of just doing something for an hour once a week for a few years and what you can do with it. It's funny, I saw on Twitter yesterday, maybe today, the day before, somebody posted a picture of an arena, hockey arena full of fans. And they said, this is 20,000 people. So imagine if you had 20,000 followers somewhere, and like if you can't make 2 sales a year out of this, right, and it's like a whole arena of people,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing something wrong. And so what I've seen, and I study YouTube, like I really do, like I want to get better and I want to figure out how to do it better and how to get more views like everybody else. And I mean, you have to study it, you have to figure it out, you got to
Mm-hmm.
learn this thing. But when you do, and when you do it right, like the amounts of money that some people are making and the connections that you can make through this, like whatever you decide your intent is for this kind of a thing, whoever you are,
Mm-hmm.
whether you like just even a mother sitting at home, I'm telling you, there's an audience for everybody out there, right? So if you just do it consistently and you try and do it a little better every week, or every time you put something out there and you try new stuff, eventually you'll find the thousands of people that for whatever reason, like, vibe with you and follow you. And then if you wanted to like sell them something,
Mm-hmm.
but this is the thing, like this is nothing new, right? This is we've been buying stuff that's been in movies and TV ads and like newspapers forever. This is just the new way of doing it. And so what I realized is like, holy cow, like it's just all a big marketing scheme, and it just is. So why not? No, but why not? Like why not? Like we're not trying to sell anything, like we're just having our conversation every week, so why not put a logo up and like throw a commercial
Mm-hmm.
in? And I mean, some
I
people
agree.
struggle with that, but why the hell not? Like, this is such a great distribution channel for anything that you want to distribute, right? But it takes time to like get to a
Mm-hmm.
point where people think you got something cool. Like me and TK, we did a lot
Mm-hmm.
of weeks where it was like, what the fuck, man? Like, we had 24 views last week. How could we only be at 7 again? That was a banging episode, man. We should be at least at 12,
Uh,
right?
it's interesting. We were talking. Well, we were even just talking offline. So the Real Estate Investment Network, that we just launched that channel. Really, I shouldn't say we just launched it. Technically, we did revive it. It was, we set it up years ago, but have never done anything with it. And then, of course, the Everyday Millionaire YouTube podcast, we just literally launched. And as I was saying offline, the audio. So for listeners who are on audio, I have thousands of listeners that, are really committed to the podcast, listen to it frequently. And I'm going, well, here, let's just test it. Go to my YouTube channel, get on YouTube. But, I think that audio listeners are audio listeners and YouTube listeners are YouTube listeners. I think I haven't
It's
cracked the code,
totally different. No, but you're right.
I'm, I'm trying to crack the code. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure shit out. And I'm a little bit obsessive that way. Like when I take something on, I can pass. Like I don't do video editing and I don't do that stuff. I pass it off onto the team and they love doing it and that's great. But I'm actually leading the charge and saying, okay, how do we grow this channel?
Yeah.
And I'm putting time and energy into it, and I love it because that for me is some creative process as well. And so I
Yeah.
really enjoy that, and I get to hang out with guys like you and meet different people, and I think that's really cool. But it's to your point, it's time spent, and you have to study it, you have to implement, try, test. It's a
Anything
process. It takes time, and you want
takes
more
time.
and better results because that's how we're wired. But it isn't
It's
that way.
it's true. And what most people I don't think realize is that I'm actually the editor for all the content that we put out. And
Mm,
I mean, we put out a ton of content right now. Like I chop that hour up a million different ways, and now I have my own thing that I do as well. And there's a
mhm.
lot of work, but again, I get to have that creative outlet. So for me,
Yeah.
like I don't care. All of a sudden it'll be like 3 in the morning and I'm editing a video and it's like, oh crap, like I gotta wake up soon. What the hell am I doing? But like back when I
Well,
was
the
a
creative.
kid, right? And I'd play guitar all night and I'd be like writing these songs and playing, and next thing you know, it's like 5 in the morning. Like when you get to be creative, it just flies by and you get
Yeah.
to feel youthful. Like you work in a job that you hate and you feel like shit and old. You dread your life. You don't want to wake up in the morning. Like it's harder to wake up in the morning these days as I get older, but I want to at least. Like I want to get out of bed. I just can't.
Okay, don't even get me going on older. Hey, but
God,
listen, I want to talk, so we hang around a lot. As entrepreneurs, we face a lot of different challenges, and, we're driving content, which is in itself a nice, fun, creative process. But when we look at what's happened over the past 3 years, it's easy to get in. If you spend some time on YouTube, you look at what's happening in the real estate market. You're talking about how many idiots there are as contractors. I'm looking and how many idiots can make money. And, I dumb it down to, and I'm always a little bit careful about name calling, but when I look at our current government, I'm going, and sometimes idiots get elected and then they get reelected, and even an idiot can be the prime minister of a country. And I'm always shocked
especially.
by that. And I'm seeing what's happening over the past 3 years and where we have come to, and I'm like shocked, dismayed, infuriated. My uncle once passed on some wisdom to me, and he said, the thing about life is that it's okay to be skeptical. Go ahead, be skeptical. Don't get cynical. And I've always kind of
Mm,
hung on to that. Be skeptical, don't be cynical. But I'm finding myself fighting the urge to be cynical as I watch the housing crisis, quote unquote, the Bank of Canada doing what the Bank of Canada is doing, the taxes that we're paying on, you know, and the fight we have for inflation is kind of got not, like it. We forget the taxflation that isn't woven into that number, although it's a huge number. And so let's talk a little bit about how you see it. I know you got some really strong opinions about it, and because I've listened to you, I align with pretty much all the opinions I've heard that you express. Kind of when you reflect on where we see ourselves 3+ years later, coming out of the lockdowns, what's your thoughts? What's your kind of overview of what you're seeing happening, and maybe even how you see the future?
so I am not able to not be cynical. So I'm definitely cynical. I'm definitely skeptical about everything. I'm definitely open minded about everything. Like, I do want to, even when it hurts, I do want to hear the opposite opinion. And I want to be able to at least consider it. I have been known to change my mind quite often. Um, but I mean, this is not the country I grew up in.
Mhm.
Like, this is not the Canada that I grew up on, that I played road hockey in the streets on and felt safe and felt like, it was a beautiful world. Like, this is a different planet, right? And so, when we were younger and people would say, who the hell wants to bring a kid into this world? And we did it anyways. Like, look at what's going on. I mean, something major has got to change, right? Because this is no way to live. And it's weird because, the world's going this way, and I don't know anybody who's on board with the plan, right? I don't know
Mhm.
anybody that wants to be at war all the time and wants to feel broke and wants to borrow money, and wants to work 1,000 hours a week or work at an Amazon warehouse because they pay $22 an hour, like I don't know anybody that's on board with this plan. And I talk to a lot of people and they all have like really great ideas. So like what's 3 years look like from now? Likely the same, right? Maybe it feels a little I don't know, like I keep hoping for some kind of revolution, right? But I mean, I'm not doing it,
Mhm.
right? I'm comfortable. I'm not doing it. That's the truth.
Mhm.
You're not doing it. TK's not
Mhm.
doing it, right? I don't know anybody doing anything about it either. And herein lies the problem. So, I mean, we can talk about it. We can come up with solutions like everybody else. Hopefully, at
Mhm.
some point, somebody does something about it, right? Because there is a them and there is a us. And I am definitely in the us team. And I don't like it anymore. I don't like what I saw with the convoy, the trucker convoy. I don't like what I saw with this vaccination baloney, right? I don't like feeling like I can't leave my country, or maybe if I leave, I can't ever come back. And I don't like feeling like an outsider in the place that I grew up in, right? I don't like this. I don't like waiting for months for a passport and like going to the driver's license with my kid and like the lights are out and the place smells like urine and the bathrooms need renovations, like and I'm sitting there and I'm talking to like people immigrants and they're like, what the hell is this place? Like isn't this supposed to be like first world country? Like where the hell did we leave for this shit? And people are saying that, and maybe it's not like everybody, because I'm sure it's much better than where a lot of people are coming from, but this is not Canada anymore. Like and it was like, I don't think I felt like this 3-4 years ago. Like this is new. All of a sudden this place changed. Like the whole world just feels upside down now, right? And so, do you like Star Wars? Are you a Star Wars guy?
Yeah, I do like Star Wars. I'm not I'm not obsessed. I'm not the first in line when they have a new release. I'm the guy that goes, I'll see it when it comes out. You
So like there's a lot, like I just keep drawing a lot of weird comparisons to Star Wars now, because like
Mm.
the Empire that a lot of people, thought were the good guys really turned out to be the bad guys. And like we have this empire that I don't know who the hell thinks they're the good guys anymore. Like, does anybody think
Mhm.
that the US is not up to no good all over the place? Right. And so when so what kind of, marketing on YouTube leads to realizing that like the whole thing is a sham, which leads to like, holy cow. Like, okay, when TV was first invented, okay, like let's even go back even further. I don't want to get crazy here, but let's go back to radio days. Did you ever hear in school the what was it called, the invasion, the War of the
Oh, that's
Worlds.
when
War of the
War of the
Worlds.
Worlds. Yeah,
Do you remember
yeah.
that? And the whole
Mm.
world, like they fell for it and everybody went crazy because it was like they trusted what was on the radio. Like it was supposed to be
Yeah.
news. That's what was on the radio. And you trusted it for insight. And now all of a sudden there's an alien invasion and everybody's going crazy. So now you get TV and it's like, okay, like it's a naive bunch of people. You got this great thing. It's entertaining. It's beautiful. It's new. It's shiny. It's great. But now, fast forward like 60, 70 years, and you go, holy shit, like they've been really feeding people a lot of stuff for a long time. And when there's only
Mhm.
three networks, right? But now it's like there's a million places to hear the truth, whatever the hell the truth is nowadays. But there's a million
Mhm.
places to go to find stuff out. And at least like open up a gateway for maybe a different thought than what you see on certain channels, right? Or through certain channels. And then you start to see like some crazy stuff if you do like not even like surface level digging, like just a couple of keywords, right? And
Yeah.
now you start to go, holy cow. Like who do I believe? What do I believe? How do I figure out who and what to believe? And when
Yeah.
I do, what the fuck do I do now?
Yeah.
So now I have like this idea. What do I do with it?
Well, I think there's a fundamental that you hit on, which is, what would initiate change, and then ultimately that's the challenge we face, isn't it?
Mm,
Because what is the hill you're prepared to die on? What is it that you're prepared to do in terms of initiating change? And it's not an easy. We see the problems, we recognize a lot of the issues that we have, and there is no easy solutions to those issues. By the way, what we do
mm,
know is that what has transpired over the past 3 years is huge amount of polarity and divisiveness and wokeness, if you will, and just a real divide in terms of
right.
views of the world. And you start to see that it's being driven by government, it's being driven by mainstream media, and it doesn't take a lot, really. I don't think that either of us are particularly smart, but we do have a view of the world that is pretty pragmatic. It's pretty practical. It's pretty common sense. And the fact that we question the motives or the initiatives of our government and or big corporation or whatever that might be, I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. I think we owe it to ourselves to actually question some of the things that are happening and some of the things that we're seeing. It's often the use of words that who would have even this misinformation and disinformation, and all of the things that we apparently are being fed, and those terms are being used by the very people that go, no, they're it's misinformation, it's disinformation, the message they're putting out there. And I'm going, no, your misinformation, your disinformation. It's like, who the hell do you believe? And it is a real challenge. And so I look at it, and so I have a view of the world. I have my view, you have your view, but ultimately we look at where it's at today. And I think you said something which along the lines of, this is not the Canada that we grew up in. This is not actually the world that we grew up in. This is a global issue. The question I would have from you, are you looking at it and going, something? I got to look outside. Do you think there's a greener on the other side? If it wasn't Canada, have you considered where it would be, and have you considered even getting the hell out of Canada? Many have. I'm just asking if you
Oh
have.
yeah. Oh, I would definitely. I would leave in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. If
Mm.
my kids would come with us, I would leave in a heartbeat. But my kids, they got friends and they got whatever. They got to be in the room with the video games all day. I don't know. They don't want to leave. So I'm stuck here right now. But I would leave in
Where
a
would you
heartbeat.
go? Where would you
I
go?
would love to go to Belize. I don't know
Mm.
why, but I loved Belize. I went there once and I was just like, oh my God, this is where I would go. Something
Mm.
just felt right about that place. Look, my skills are transferable, right?
Mm.
I can do what I do wherever I go, but I'd like for my family to be with me. So until they're older, I'm going to be stuck here unless I'm forced to leave. One of my best friends left when they were when the flight mandates changed, like when the flight rules changed. He was like,
Mm.
"I'm out of here," and he moved to Mexico. He's got a business
Mm.
here in Toronto. He went to Mexico, started buying real estate in Mexico, but he was just
Yeah.
like, "It's it. I'm done. It's not Canada anymore. This feels like back home where I left already, and I don't want to live like that anymore. I'm going to go somewhere else." And it's crazy that somebody would feel safer in Mexico than Canada, right? That's that
Mm.
doesn't sound intuitive, does it? But this is the thing. I've been to Mexico. I mean, I never felt unsafe for very
No.
long. I mean, if you go
No.
to a stupid place or you talk to stupid people, I mean, look what's going on. I don't know if you follow the news in Toronto, but people are getting murdered every day here. People are getting thrown on the train tracks. It's like swarms of 13-year-old girls are killing men. Like, I don't know what's going on here anymore. This is
Yeah, it
crazy.
is. But I think you're. suffering. Toronto's suffering the same challenges that many of the big cities in are right across the U.S. Vancouver's facing it as well.
Yeah, you guys
I
are a
look at it
disaster.
and I go back to leadership. At the end of the day, it's government leadership, it's bureaucracy. It is really the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing. You've seen the numbers in terms of public service workers that have been hired. And at
Yeah.
the end of the day, we know that bureaucracy creates bureaucracy, which slows the cogs and the wheels down of any kind of progress. And it's the changes that they make in the social structure. So I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a capitalist, but I believe in social programs. I would like to have called myself a liberal conservative in the past, but I don't even know what center is anymore. It's gone so far left out of my comfort zone that anything that isn't that far left seems way right. So I don't even know where I'm at anymore. I just know that I
There's
believe
no
in,
middle.
you know, I get whatever the middle might be. But the point is that Toronto and Vancouver have been dealing with homelessness and you know, people living on the street for years. It has not gotten any better. It continues to get worse. And I don't care what social programs they put in place, they don't work. They will never work. And it's not because of the individuals on the street, it's they don't put a program together that makes sense. And this goes back to, we joke about, I will throw Trudeau under the bus any day of the week. This goes back to literally an individual who truly believes the budget will balance itself. He's a trust funder. He's probably written lots of checks, never had to balance a checkbook and or a bank account in his life, and somebody else has paid his credit cards. Like, he's got no relationship to money that is in any context makes sense in business, let alone in running a country. And so these social programs can't be fixed just by throwing money at it. And so we see these things unfolding in front of our eyes, and it just seems to be heightened given all of the things that have come undone. Now, we recognize the problem, to your point. We recognize the problem. What the hell can you do about it? What the hell can I do about it other than vent, get frustrated, throw our hands up, vote. I mean, I know how I voted. I'm worried about, what's going on, in Alberta. And I don't know that Trudeau won't get back in again. That is a concern. So these are real concerns I have as a citizen of Canada, as a business owner. Sometimes I just shake my head and wonder what in the fuck is happening and unfolding right now. Having said all of that, Stephanie, my wife, and I do a podcast called, The Everyday Millionaire Mindset Matters. And we're addressing the issues, the mental and emotional, trying to support people and just having a different view of the world, taking responsibility for their own emotional and mental health, how they view the world. Try and, I'm not saying look at the world through rose colored glasses, but this is really the time to do the work in terms of looking after yourself mentally and emotionally, professionally. Who is your tribe? Who are you surrounding yourself with? And that's all because of what's unfolding before us. So I know it's a little bit of a rant, but I think, Daryl, is that it's really going to be guys like you, me, TK, any number of people that we follow and have gotten to know that will be the change in some way. And it may not look like, us standing on a hill and saying, follow me, come this way. It may not be that way. It may just be how we show up in what we do and in our actions. You follow?
Yeah, I hear you for sure. I mean, I think the problems are much deeper than, just social programs and
Oh, yeah,
whether
for sure.
Trudeau's going to be in office again. Like, there's way bigger things and way worse things going on that need to be dealt with. But like, for some reason, I do believe that somewhere, somehow, somebody or a group of people, and that's why I was drawing that Star Wars comparison, is that there's got to be some rebels out there that are going to do something on behalf of all of us at some point, and things will change. And I don't know when this is going to be. And like, I think my job is to like, you have to be skeptical, cynical, and stay positive, right? And you still have to,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're being skeptical and cynical, and you still have to be confident if you're going to be successful. Like, you still have to, you can be
Mm-hmm.
skeptical and cynical and not be negative and not let
Mm-hmm.
it weigh you down. It's like another eye or something. Like it's just another perspective that you need to take in as part of the whole picture, I think.
Well, there's a level, I agree. And of course, it's not just about social programs or government. I mean, that's the conversation I went into. There is a far, far bigger issue at hand and
It's a
a lot of things that are unfolding when we look at the global macro. I'm following very closely what's happening: Ukraine, Russia, China, Taiwan, UK, Europe,
crazy.
Germany. I mean, I follow it all quite closely and trying to crack the code in what's happening economically and paying attention to what's going on in the US and the politics. I look at it all. And it is interesting to watch how things are unfolding. You look at a direction, and I look at it from going in all of this shit, like in all that's happening. I'm looking at it going, I still have to live my life. I still blessed in a great relationship with my wife, my home, my two Burmese mountain dogs, my grandkids. I love my life. I absolutely love it. And I continue to ask, what's the opportunity in all of this? Because there will always be opportunities. And I don't want to just survive. I want to thrive through it all. And how can I be the leader? And that's why Darryl, it's something that is interesting is that you put it out there. You and I and many others, but let's just say the individuals who are willing to go on YouTube, go on an audio podcast. We're putting it out there. Not everybody's comfortable. It seems like in our world, of course, that's what you do. But
Yeah.
not everybody thinks that way.
No.
Not everybody's willing to put themselves out there. I sometimes think every time I release a podcast or any time that Stephanie and I do a Mindset Matters, I know that there's a bunch of people that either judge it, want to trash it, want to troll it. And, so you have to have a pretty altruistic view of why you do it in order to put yourself in that position. All I'm saying is that the message that we put out there in a podcast, in a YouTube, the little insights that we can provide can shift people's perspective. And that's one of the primary drivers that I do what I do is that, if I can help shape the world, if I can give somebody else a different perspective and a different view of the world, that's another thing to do. So that's why I pay attention to all these things. And, I look in the
Sure.
future, I'm very optimistic, although it's hard to be that way when you look at just what the hell's going on in the world.
Yeah, and I have this board with all these sayings on it, and I really feel like uh, I forget the saying, but it's basically like when things are most chaotic, or from the chaos comes the clarity, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm pretty sure like this feeling that we have, like this feeling that's kind of looming over everybody, and like if we were in the 40s right now, like we would call it like world war, like the whole world is at war. It's a mess. Everybody's divided. It's a big mess. But like from this chaos, hopefully something better comes from it. Like
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what it looks like, okay? Like
Mm-hmm.
this is not the model, whatever it is, right? Whether it's the US model, the UK model, the British model, like whatever model we're following now, it's
Mm-hmm.
fucking broken on every level.
It is.
There's no more duct tape that can hold this thing together, and it will explode. It will
Mm-hmm.
explode. And I don't know what that's going to feel like, but from this explosion, hopefully like we get a better system, not like a worse crazy one like people are predicting. Like maybe we end up, okay, listen, everybody's afraid of these digital currencies. Okay, you want to be afraid of a digital currency? Hello, like what isn't tracked here right now? If you got something to hide, then fine, be afraid. If you're doing, I don't want to pay taxes either, but you know what, eventually to get your
Don't get
taxes,
me going on CBDC. I'm
it's
not afraid of CBDC, by the way. I've studied a lot. But where CBDC leads
scary.
to is not about whether I get hammered more taxes or I can't transact under the table, because that I don't do that anyways. It's not a concern for me. I might give my grandson $10. I'm sure he'll be taxed on it in the future because I'll
Right,
have to do it CBDC.
right,
It isn't about that. It is actually about the level of control that the government has over you when it comes to everything from where you spend, carbon credits, how, in fact, what you're going to eat or not eat,
yeah,
social credits. That's all there. So if you've spent any time, this is
Yeah.
already in place in China and millions of people. Now, what's interesting about China is that culture. So literally, if you jaywalk in China, in some cities in China right now, you literally get a ticket. You then
Yeah.
get shamed on the big screen. They then take the cash from your account that pays that ticket. Now,
For
that's
jaywalking?
jaywalking.
Wow. You're not going to
Okay.
jaywalk again, though. That's for goddamn sure.
So, and you get shamed on the big screen. And I'm
Oh
not
my
joking about
God.
this, is for real.
It's great.
So, we have spent time in China because my wife and I did a lot of business. Stephanie and I did a lot of business there. Here's the thing, friends coming from, I don't remember what frickin' city she's coming from. I can't ever remember. Stephanie and I were in, I think, Hangzhou or Beijing. It doesn't matter. Colleen's there. She works for Cirque du Soleil. They're doing a show. She says, "Why don't I jump on the train and come visit you guys?" She's a Canadian that was working in there. And I would go, "That'd be awesome." And so it's a 3 hour train ride, bullet train, that fast unit that they got, 3 hours. So it's not easy, right? So she goes to buy a first class ticket, a
Hmm.
business class ticket. They're not ultra expensive when you're doing, anyways, doesn't matter. She goes and it won't let her buy a freaking ticket. She's going, God damn it. So, anyways, she gets on and she has to, you know, get in the cattle car to travel to see us. And she's telling us about this and she's going, it's just, I'm pissed off. I've never had that happen before. And being on the cattle car for 3 hours in China is no fun. And
Hmm.
so, anyways, long story short, she goes to buy the ticket back. She can't do it. She sees a guy on the whatever ticket guy, somebody who works for the train, calls him over, kind of gets a translator. He basically says, no, no, you can't buy a ticket. And it was because she had had an incident at the bank and they dinged her social credit score.
Wow.
And that prevented her, CBDC, that prevented her from buying that ticket.
Hmm.
So we look at CBDC, it's not about hiding money, tax, it's about control.
Control.
And
So,
when we know the initiative around things like carbon credits, by the way, it is true story. You bought too much meat, you need, you're cut off, or you're going to pay 3x to buy the carbon credits. And if you've noticed on any plane tickets that you've bought, what are they doing? They're going, oh, this is your carbon usage on this flight. It's all set up for that. And so it's already in place, it's already proven. That's where they're going.
oh yeah.
That's the problem with CBDC. So am I afraid of them? No, but I am afraid of the control.
So let me ask you a couple of questions here, because, well, so I decided that I wasn't going to take the medicine that they thought was very necessary for everybody,
Yeah.
and I felt like I was already under control. Like I couldn't go to a restaurant, and I still can't fly to the States. Funny enough, which I don't even understand that. I think
Yeah.
next month that's supposed to change, but
Yeah.
I can like I felt like a prisoner in my own country already. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, if we think back to the convoy, I bet some of those people would say that they felt that there was a level of control over their funds.
There was.
There was. So I hear you, and I'm sure CBDCs are not meant to be a great thing for any of us, but I think there's scarier things than that we have
Oh
to
no.
focus
Okay.
on, because we
Okay.
are
So Daryl,
tracked and traced by everything. Like everything around us is recording something and sending it somewhere.
oh, 100%. Oh yeah. That's and so sometimes I go, we as people don't like change. We just, by our nature, we don't like change. You don't like change. You like to be comfortable, quote unquote. You like the comfort, right?
Oh yeah,
We all do. And if you're going to make change, and I'm kind of designed for change. I embrace change, but when I'm looking at least I believe I do. I might be full of shit, but I think at the end of the day, when I'm forced change, then I get a little bitchy. When
sure.
somebody's telling me what's good for me, that pisses me off.
Right. But okay, so if it was a place maybe that we grew up in, or a place that we felt a connection that was worth saving or fighting for,
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would leave here in a heartbeat, right? And if
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, listen, if I really wanted to move and I didn't feel like really safe anymore, it'd be like, kids, guess what? You're moving. I don't give a shit, right? You're coming with me. And we would
Yeah.
move because I would not, under any circumstance, fight for this place. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
That's the honest to
Yeah.
God truth. And I
Mm-hmm.
look at people like, I know I have a lot of Israeli friends. I'm Jewish. So I mean, I end up meeting a lot of Israelis one way or another. And
Mm-hmm.
I think they're all crazy because they all fight for their country and they would all do it again. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're
Yeah.
crazy that they don't just move and get their kids out of there before they get drafted into the army. But like,
Yeah.
I guess they think it's worth fighting for.
Yeah.
Right. Because
I
I don't
know.
know,
Where have we come to?
would you strap on a backpack and some boots and grab a gun and go out there? Would you jump out of a plane for this place?
If I had knees that still worked, maybe.
I
No,
don't
I
care
don't.
how good
I
my
don't.
body worked. I
You're
wouldn't
right.
do it.
Under the current leadership, I wouldn't.
Not for these
Okay,
people.
so I'm going to digress because we got to wind down, and I know
All right.
you've already given me lots of your time, and I appreciate it. I do want to, on this same note, when we look at what's happening in the world, we look at what's happening. Let's link it back to real estate, which is both of our backyards.
Mhm.
I'm sensing, aside from supply, demand, people sitting on the sidelines. Where are the listings? The listings aren't there. People aren't selling. Why aren't they selling? Nobody really knows. There's lots of speculation. You know, detached properties, detached homes in Vancouver are actually on the rise. $3.5 million,
Yeah.
and you're
Same
seeing
here.
multiple offers. It's crazy, and I
Same
think
here. Yeah.
Toronto too. So the question is this: I still sense, though, a lot of apathy in the real estate world. I'm looking at it from an investor point of view. It drives me crazy because right now rental demand is off the charts. I look at being a rental housing provider, and if you're following a system, if you're following a process, if you're buying real estate, not speculating, if you're investing, not speculating in real estate, there's huge opportunities. But I'm seeing apathy of just people sitting on the sidelines, which really doesn't support the need for rental supply. So that's my little bit of a rant. I wanted to hear it from you, being kind of boots on the ground, uh, just your perspective from the world that you play around in.
I mean, I don't remember the last time the fundamentals led to something fundamental as a reaction, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's just so many things in the mix. And then, you know, what happens if they invade Taiwan? Who's got that figured out in their
Yeah,
model? Even if you've put it in, like, what does this
yeah,
look like now? Right.
yeah,
And um so I mean, you got all these economists and all these people that are supposed to know what they're talking about, but like, the rules change as they make a prediction, right?
yeah.
Nobody, for years I've been reading books and listening to people who are calling for this monster crash and this
Mm-hmm.
depression, but they never think that the central banks will print more money again. Like,
Through
how
the
much
thumbtack.
more can there be, right? But we see now with BRICS, we see now that there is an abusive point of this currency, right? There is
Mm-hmm.
a point where there's too much out there and nobody has faith in it anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
now we're witnessing that. And look, this is, if you believe in cycles, which I didn't until I got hammered by a few, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know that it's inevitable
Mm-hmm.
and you just don't know when. So you're right. I mean, if you're investing with fundamentals, I mean, it is likely that you'll be fine, but I mean, it's that fear of the but. Like, what if those guys are right and I buy this thing and the fundamentals are good and there's a tenant, but like, fuck, honestly, with the landlord tenant boards right now, like, who the hell wants to be a landlord anyways? Like, you
I
could have
just
the
had this
best, the
conversation.
best performer ever, right? You could
I
have
just
all
had this
the
conversation. Yeah,
everything in line, everything
yeah,
perfect. The money's
yeah.
lined up, partners are everywhere. This thing makes money all the time. And what happens? That fucker doesn't pay, right? Everything looks good for 3 months and then boom. And next thing you know, there's shit on the walls, everything's destroyed, the roof caught on fire, and they disappeared after 14 months of
Mm-hmm.
not getting paid. So, I mean, who, but this game changed now. This is not like you used to have investors that obviously were not investors, right? Speculators, right?
Yeah.
Up market. Again, you don't have to be a genius to make money in an up market, right? But do you trust fundamentals still to make life, like you're a seasoned veteran, right? You've seen it
Mhm.
all. You've looked at so many deals. Like, so I have in the back of my head always like, shit, what the hell if everything falls apart and they're finally right and this thing explodes? Do I want to hold real estate or anything, right? What do you
Mhm.
hold? What do you do in that case? And is that
Mhm.
ever coming? And when is it coming? Like, what is a person who doesn't do this all the time and hasn't built up the shield to deal with that shit? Like,
Mhm.
of course they're never going to do it. It's crazy, right? And so, yeah, you may get less crazy or seem smarter along the way, but you had to be crazy at some point to get into any of this, right? You had
That's
to
true.
be, especially as the operator, like maybe a guy putting 50 grand into a house and sitting back and getting his, I don't know, what do you even get nowadays? $200 at the end of the year for a cash flowing property? I don't get the whole thing. I don't get the
Um,
whole thing anymore. And I don't, but
okay.
if fundamentals led to something fundamental, then what you're saying, I could agree with 100%. But like, if you're not a little bit afraid that something bad is going to happen soon, and you don't have a contingency for that, I don't know. Maybe I'm the one smoking the wrong stuff, but I think something has to get blown up, and it can't be
Okay.
good.
I love that. Okay, so we're going to save that for another conversation. I'd love to get into that with you. We're
But
going to do this again. I got to wind down because
wind it down. I gotta go.
we've been we've been going hard, so
Yeah,
it's great.
sorry.
Good
That's my fault.
conversation
Yeah.
though. Love it. Having some fun. So as we wind down the show, I always kind of do a little bit of rapid fire stuff just to have some fun. Some rapid fire that's generally not so rapid fire, but we're going to have the conversation anyways. You ready?
I'm ready. What's this all
Okay.
about?
Well, let's just play the game.
Let's go.
Okay. Apple or Android?
Android.
No kidding. Wow, loser. No, I'm not saying that. That's good. That's pretty rare. I
Used to be
like it.
Apple. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you Samsung? Are you Google? What kind of phone?
Samsung. Hey,
Wow.
listen, if you're open minded and you're willing to change your mind and something better comes along, you recognize it.
Okay. Love
Apple
it.
sucks.
Okay. No, that's awesome. Favorite quote? You have one, an inspirational quote that you really dig?
Oh, I have so many.
Pick one.
Impossible is just a word that cowards use to describe. God, I forget what it was. Impossible. Anyways, something about impossible. Okay, and it's not real. Impossible is just a mindset too, right? I forget
True
the
enough.
actual quote, but impossible is a challenge. Is basically what it comes down to, right?
Got
Because I
it.
mean, if you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to like believe in possible, it's not going to last too long.
Well, I've often, I've said to many, that have been on the journey of what's impossible and all the rest of it. If you were your 20-year-old self and you look ahead now where you are 20 years later or 30 years later, and you said at 20, this is where you would be, this is how much money you'd be making, this is where you'd be living, this is what your life would be, you would go, that would be fucking amazing. I'll never get there. And here you are today. And sometimes we lose sight of the fact that, we are living whatever
Uh,
our vision was, whatever our dream was. And along the way, there was a lot of impossibilities that became possible and kept us moving forward. And I think you've got a great story around all of that. So there. That's what I got to say about that.
there you go.
Do you have a favorite book, a most impactful book, or a book that you like to share, recommend?
Rich Dad Poor Dad, I think, changed my life. I read that thing in like a few hours. I couldn't put it
Mhm.
down. I think I stayed up. I just read it all night, and it just
Yeah.
changed my outlook on just really how to look at a house or at an asset.
Rich Dad Poor Dad is probably one of the most recommended books. Was one of my game changers for me personally. And the other book that I don't talk about a lot, but is very, very just came up with another guy I was talking to, which is the E Myth and the E Myth Revisited. Uh, huge. E-Myth Revisited and E-Myth by Michael Gruber they're iconic. There is probably as biblical in their nature as Rich Dad Poor Dad. So they're just not as talked about.
I read before my introduction to Robert Kiyosaki actually was, I'll tell you a tiny quick little story. We were on our way to San Francisco for that event, and I went to the airport and I needed a book, and I looked on the shelf and it said How to Quit Your Day Job. And it
Hmm.
was a Robert Kiyosaki book, and I read that thing on the plane. And in San Francisco, I was like, "That's it. We're done. It's over." It was a
You
very
know,
inspiring book.
it is. And I mean, Robert, what is he now? 75 ish, 74 ish. Anyways, he's
Looks
a
younger than
little
me.
out. What's that?
He looks younger than me now. All that
Yeah, he's a little
surgery.
out there. He's lost some weight. He's in good shape, but he's very vocal.
Oh
He's
yeah.
got some really great insights. I love Robert's stuff.
But he's one of those guys that, like, I mean, fuck, for 25 years, he's been calling for this thing to crumble and
I know.
social, right? And all this stuff. And I mean, he's like all of them. The list is endless. I mean, they didn't count on trillions of dollars being pumped into the system as the answer, right?
Yep.
It
Everybody
wasn't
thought they were
possible.
out of tricks, and they have lots of tricks up their sleeve called, "Oh, we'll just push the button and print some more."
Yeah, why not? See what
Why not?
happens.
But I think the question that was once asked is, why do we even pay taxes if they can just print money the way they do? Why do we bother? All they have to do is, push send.
Or at the very least, like, why do we send all this money in foreign aid like that? That's the craziest thing. Anyways,
I
I
know, it's
really have to
crazy.
go. It was quite enjoyable. My wife is waiting
Calling you.
patiently at the door.
Okay, well, one more question then while your wife waits patiently at the door.
Yeah.
What are you grateful for?
What am I grateful for? I'm grateful for my wife because she has put up with some shit, man, like you have no idea. And there may be no end in sight. I mean, look at the
Okay.
floor shenanigans.
Okay, so you'll thank me for that softball I just pitched you.
Thank you.
So
I
good
caught
job
it though. I
for
caught it. I could have come up
you
with
did
lots of stuff.
hit it
I'm
out of the
very,
park.
very grateful these days.
I, my friend, am grateful for having had you join me on the show today. Like you, I am very grateful for my amazing wife. Thanks again for joining me on the show, and we'll circle back and we'll chat again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.